Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It is 5 o'clock on Monday, February 10th, 2025, and I'm calling the regular Wausau School District Board meeting to order. Ms. Peck, please call roll.
Sarah Brock. Here. John Kreischer. Pat McKee.
Yes.
Jennifer Paoli.
Yes.
Joanna Reyes.
Here.
Jane Roosh.
Yes.
Corey Sillers.
Yep.
Lance Trollope.
Here.
Jim Boucher.
Here. Please stand with me and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is the mission of the Wausau School District to advance student learning, achievement, and success. And we're moving right along. Agenda item number 5. We're going to have a presentation by Shannon Young about the WAVE program. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I have two students with me, Jack Cleveland and Sawyer Burrish, and they're going to help me with the presentation. They're two full-time WAVE students.
Oh, thank you. All right, so we're going to take some turns here with the presenting, but try to keep to our limit. We're going to hit on 4 different areas tonight that are exciting things to us. FBLA, our quilt club. We now have a National Honor Society chapter, and then a few other celebrations that we thought were very noteworthy to mention. So I'm going to turn it over for FBLA.
So FBLA, it's a great organization that I'm a part of. My name is Sawyer, if you don't know me. So I'm a freshman at WAVE. I've been here for 3 years. So I'm the FBLA president currently. This is the vice president, actually. So FBLA is an organization. It's Future Business Leaders of America. We do a lot of great things with community service, as well as competitions. So we recently competed at regionals, as you can see on your screens. And so me, Jack, Heidi McClone, and James McClone are all members that we competed this year. And I actually placed second at regionals, so I will be moving on to state. Jack is also an alternate, so he placed fourth in Introduction to Financial Math. And then Heidi and James both placed eighth in Introduction to Event Planning and in Personal Finance. So I would be a part of that, and Jack could also be a part of that as well. And then other than that, we do a lot of other things outside competitions. We like to focus a lot on community service projects. So, for example, this past week we went to the community closet and helped with organizing and donating clothes and doing part of that. And as you see, we have a pretty busy schedule, so we try to do 1 or 2 things every month for sure. And we try to be at least have a meeting every week to every other week. And we're always trying to grow. We're pretty small, but we like to keep growing, and yeah, that's really what we strive to be about. And we try to explain how we're more than just a business, and we teach a lot more about the community than just business. So yeah, thank you.
We have a couple photos. We have a lot more photos, but certainly they've been involved in a lot. So as you can imagine, there's been a lot of opportunities to capture some of that. All right, Quilt Club.
Good evening. My name is Jack Clement, and I'm a freshman here at WAVE. I'm a member of the Quilt Club and the vice president, as Sawyer said, of the Future Business Leaders of America group. This year, our Quilt Club has been extremely successful as we have received a grant for sewing machines to better our group, received donations from the community monetary for the purchase of fabric, and receive physical donations of material from other community members around our school and just people that heard about us. Last school year, we donated a quilt to the Baby's Place put on by the Community Partners campus. Palliative care at Aspirus, where a WAVE student asked us to make a brightly colored quilt that for their patients, which WAW did a story about us and featured as the first story on the news that night. And then this school year, we have donated 2 quilts to the Hurricane Helene relief through the Needle Workshop, holiday ornaments for all of our full-time and some of our part-time staff to show our appreciation for them. And currently, we are working on our first Quilt of Valor for one of our staff members' fiance, who is a disabled veteran, and are hoping to keep spreading joy and happiness through our quilts.
And as you can see in the presentation, there's a picture of a couple of the quilts that the students made and donated. Their advisor is one of our teachers, Renee Groshak, and she has a passion for quilting and has been able to share that with others and with the students. The grant for the sewing machines makes it able for our students to check those sewing machines out, so then they can also work on some of the quilts from home as well, or maybe other projects that they might be interested in doing. So we've got several sewing machines in play now, so that just means that more students are able to work on things at the same time. New to us this year is a National Honor Society chapter. Our advisor for that is Mr. Matt Dalsky. We're super excited to have, this is the first chapter that WAVE has had, and so we have our first group of students this year that are part of the National Honor Society at our school. And their yearly service project this year is going to be organizing a student help day where National Honor Society members are going to offer to tutor students in their classes, so hopefully we can improve their success as well. So they're in the process of setting that up right now and making their arrangements for that, that tutoring help. We also have some other celebrations that I thought it was important to highlight. Our enrollment is at 223 full-time students and 265 part-time students. I can tell you these numbers are probably already lower than what they were, or higher than what they were when I put them in here and when I started the presentation last week. We are in our final, actually did have to talk to Mrs. Lannigan, our registrar today, and say, okay, like, we had a deadline and we may have, been a little bit wishy-washy on it at first, and we're just really, quite frankly, at capacity for the faculty that we have right now. So that's a great problem to have, but things are definitely, this has been a booming semester for us, and we're seeing some considerable growth right now, which is very exciting for us. All of our WAVE 4th and 5th graders met or exceeded their Ames Web expectations for that winter testing, which is fabulous. Sometimes with students, we don't always, I think we all can get into a little bit of a winter slump, and sometimes you don't always see the gains that you're hoping to see at that point in time, but our 4th and 5th graders did great in that regard. Our staff worked really hard this year at WAVE at revamping our onboarding process. So what does it look like for a student at WAVE when you enroll at WAVE, and how do we teach you how to navigate the curriculum, how to take care of all the things that you have to take care of, who do you get in touch with? And we definitely saw an impact on it. I don't have any kind of exact numbers, but we know we saw an impact in particular for our middle schoolers, as we did not have as many of them showing up on our engagement list, or lack of engagement list. It's something that we take a look at every week, who's engaging in their curriculum, who isn't, what do we need to do about it? And that onboarding process definitely seemed to help. That group of students in particular, that age group, were reaching out and asking questions and connecting with the team, as the team reported more than they felt like they ever had before. So that was very exciting. The staff put a lot of work into it and tried to make it as personalized as possible. We also provide enrollments and allow our students to take enrollments that are delivered statewide. So there's our statewide consortium of providers, and we had 58 students access statewide courses. So 58 students from the Wausau School District, not just WAVE, but all of our schools in the high schools in the district have access to this, and they were able to take courses provided by other schools, and then we also provided over 60 enrollments to the system. Don Jameson is our instructor who provides our statewide enrollments and is just fabulous. I believe our enrollments were more than that. We just had to get the solid numbers on them. What we try to do as a partner in WEN, which is the Wisconsin eSchool Network, is you hope that the schools that are putting in are taking out about the same amount, because you pay for the enrollments, but then you get paid for the enrollments that you provide. And the goal in that organization is to keep things fairly even. Because of what Mrs. Jameson does, we tend to actually make a little money on those, sometimes a lot of money on those, depending on how many students are going in and out with that. So it's been an exciting year so far, and the semester is starting off really strong for us. So we appreciate the time to talk about some of the great things that we have going on.
Thank you.
Any
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, just two quick comments. First of all, I think one of the most important pieces about this, at least in my mind, is when people think of WAVE, right, the virtual education. But what you guys are doing is really bringing that same social aspect, volunteering aspect that you see in a traditional setting to WAVE, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So kudos to you guys for driving a lot of this stuff. And secondly, and this is, I guess, probably more of a follow-up, but Jack, you sent the board an email last August regarding Camp Rainbow's End. Could you quickly remind the board what that was that you volunteered for?
Yeah, so that was Camp Rainbow's End put on by Aspirus Health, and I believe we figured a workaround to that for making it credit because they're always looking for more volunteers there. I think we figured out a sort of workaround to that,
You did, okay.
and which should work to be able to get high school credit for that wonderful opportunity.
Okay. And so just to remind the board and for
Yeah.
folks at home, Jack's question, which was frankly spot on, was he volunteered for 2 weeks at this camp for special needs. And the question to the board and to Mr. Bushman was, is there a way to get credit for the time that they spent, much like we have counselors do out at the school forest, which I thought was a fantastic idea. Not only for that particular example, excuse me, but also volunteering for other things, whether it's in the community or what have you, I think is a great way and something we should be promoting with our students to get more involved. So I'm glad we got an answer to that.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that too.
Any other comments? Sarah?
Just want you guys to promise to let us know how regionals and state go.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Actually, I just want to make one comment about the fact that I'm glad that we have WAVE. I'm glad that we have the opportunity for the possibility of a different way of learning versus being in the classroom at all times. Some students and you students here have shown us that you can excel in that area. And some students have different ways of learning and being online. I've taken many online courses myself, and I enjoy it. You can do it at your own time, your own speed, and you have to have that temperament in order to do it. So obviously, the two of you have that temperament, and congratulations for doing what you're doing. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Mr. Bushman, I just want to thank you for bringing different groups in from different schools, the elementary, the different, like WAVE coming in to let us know how they're doing. It really gives us as board members an opportunity to see what's going on in our district, and also gives people in our community an opportunity to see all the different things that we have here in the district that they may not know about. So thank you for doing that. This week is the School Bus Driver Appreciation Week proclamation to be read, and maybe somebody heard me, but I wish the font would have been a little bit bigger because I'm going to have to be going in and out like a trombone here, but I'll do my best. And I don't want to make light of this because bus drivers are needed, number one, to get our students here safely, to be educated, to get them to activities, to the arts. It's very important that we have competent people that are doing this. I've attempted driving a bus one time, and I said that was the one time, and that's all I needed. I realized I couldn't do that. I didn't have that capability, so I greatly appreciate bus drivers for what they do. So, with this proclamation from our governor, Tony Evers, whereas according to the Wisconsin School Bus Association, more than 12,000 school bus drivers in the state of Wisconsin travel over 144 million miles a year to safely transport hundreds of thousands of students to and from school every day. Whereas drivers, managers, and operators of school buses work to practice and promote the highest standards to ensure the safety and transportation of their passengers. And whereas, in addition to transporting students to and from school, drivers are tasked with the important responsibilities of vehicle maintenance and cleanliness, keeping bus order, assisting students with specialized needs, and ensuring student safety. And whereas the Wisconsin School Bus Association, through its board of directors, pledges its full and dedicated cooperation with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation's Bureau of Transportation Safety, Division of Motor Vehicles, State Patrol, and the traffic enforcement agencies, parent-teacher associations, cooperative educational service agencies, and other organizations across the state in promoting public awareness of the importance of school bus transportation. And whereas this week the state of Wisconsin joins all Wisconsinites in thanking school bus drivers, managers, and operators across the state for the critically important work they do to ensure Wisconsin students have a safe and reliable way to get to and from school every day. Now, therefore, I, Tony Evers, Governor of the state of Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim February 10th through the 14th, 2025, as Wisconsin School Bus Driver Appreciation Week throughout the state of Wisconsin, and I commend this observance to all our state's residents. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of Wisconsin to be affixed, done at the Capitol in the city of Madison this 13th day of December 2024, signed by Governor Tony Evers. So greatly appreciate his comments about the importance of bus drivers. Thank you.
And can I add that our bus drivers do not have a bus barn, so they're out there early in the morning clearing the snow off those buses and trying to get them warmed up so our little kiddies, well, and our big kids don't freeze when they get on that bus.
Thank you for that, because that's a task in itself, getting that ready. So with that, our next agenda item, I would like to recognize speakers and students who wish to make public comments, but before we do, a couple reminders, or do we not have? Then we don't need the reminders. I will continue on with that. So, agenda item 8, approving the consent agenda, appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements, minutes of a special session of January 13th, 2025, regular session of January 13th, 2025, special session of January 27th, 2025, and the special session of February 4th, 2025. Payment of bills, budgets, budget status, and investment report, along with donations to the district. Apogee Services Incorporated, Rob and Christine Barbier. Blue Jays Hockey, Blue Jacks, excuse me. Nice, Blue Jays. Sorry for that slip to our Wausau East hockey players. It's the Blue Jacks Hockey. Harry Cole, Green Bay Packers Foundation NFL Programs, Mrs. Lynn Hilger, Catherine Mueller, On Time Sports LLC, and Chatterbox Charities. I'm seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda with great gratitude for donations to the district.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second.
We got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving right along. All right, agenda item 9, a petition to alter district boundaries. I'm going to move to my other agenda. Not my other agenda, but my other script. I'll move to that so I get everything correct. So, are people here? Join us at the table. There you go. First of all, I'll start off by saying I'm Jim Boucher. I'm board president, and welcome this evening to the two of you. Board members, would you like to introduce yourselves, starting from my left? And
I am Sarah Brock.
Lance Traub.
Okay, and so I'll follow the script that I have in front of me so I stay focused here. The school board shall consider and weigh the following factors for a possibility of a switching of territory. The testimony of and written statements filed by the residents of the affected school districts, those are listed for our board members. The estimated fiscal effect of the proposed reorganization, whether the proposed reorganization will make any part of the school district's territory non-contiguous. And so with that, I'm going to now turn it over to you and listen to what you have to say. Go ahead.
Really,
Before I go any further, state your name and the district that you're in.
Justin Seeger, we're currently in Wausau. We do have one child through open enrollment in Marathon already, and one that's not enrolled yet. He's too young. So really seeking the change we're right on the district border of Marathon and Wausau. We actually watch the Marathon bus go by every day. We sometimes drop the kids off when we can't take them by the neighbors, and they'll get on. The business that I work at is actually affixed between the elementary of Marathon and the high school, so it's convenient for me to, if the children need any needs in now or in the future. I went to Marathon, so that's that's what's really, my whole family's kind of affixed to that heritage and that. So it's just kind of a built-in culture to belong to that, work in that community, and being right on the edge of the district. It just kind of, it all makes sense, and that's why we're seeking to move the line.
Hi, I'm Tracy. So I work here in Wausau. Our kids obviously will go, or one of them goes to Marathon already. My goal is to enroll the other one in Marathon when he's old enough. Like you said, the Marathon bus goes by. The south side of the road that we live on is Wausau School District. The north side is Marathon. We are the last house in the district. It's kind of a hassle to bring them all the way into town if we had to. So we're just looking to go to Marathon and move the property line. That way, if there's any special needs that our children have or will need through school, they qualify through special services in Marathon instead of having to come to Wausau. If they do need special services now, we would have to unenroll from Marathon, re-enroll in Wausau to receive those services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or is there anybody else that you have here talking on your behalf? And
just the two of us.
Just us, and my parents actually, I built right next to their adjacent property, so they're actually to the west. So it's kind of a, that's why they're on the paperwork but their property is actually right to the west. So
we own the south side of the block, essentially.
Yeah, the whole family owns the south side of the block, so it's just affecting basically our family, and they're in their 70s, so.
Okay.
But no, we just appreciate the consideration.
All right. Mr. Vagut, did you want to add anything from the administration?
Sure. Let me come up towards the front. Just something that districts typically consider is the fiscal impact of a boundary change. Cassie, I don't know if you want to bring that up. You guys mind if I steal the microphone?
Yeah,
I'll go on YouTube forever. Thanks. So districts typically consider the fiscal impact of a boundary change. So what we've outlined is the tax that would be distributed to the rest of our taxpayers in the event of a boundary change. We wouldn't lose any revenue as a result of this from a revenue limit standpoint. Just in terms of distribution, it would be distributed somewhere else. If we were to lose a a student or an FTE, there would of course be a per pupil revenue limit decrease that was realized over a period of 3 years. So that's something that districts typically consider, along with any future students would have then, of course, go to the Marathon School District, not the Wausau School District. Any questions on the fiscal implications?
Yeah, how does the, so I know if there were students living there in the future that would have attended Wausau and now won't, we lose that per pupil. But then how does the current status change? Because right now there's a student who is open enrolled into Marathon. What do we lose if they are no longer Wausau School District students open enrolled out?
Great question. So if you move just up, that's actually what's outlined in those 3 bottom tables. So there is an initial decrease in expenditure, the open enrolled tuition out for the district, but then over time you do lose that student's, over the 3-year rolling average, you do lose that student's enrollment. So over time there is a net negative fiscal impact for the district.
Other questions from the board for Mr. Vergoop?
Just one clarification, sort of to state that another way. If a child open enrolls from Wausau to Marathon in 3 years' time, that money goes to Marathon.
Right.
So it's as if we move the boundary without moving the boundary from a financial perspective.
If the student open enrolls,
As long as they continue to open enroll to the other district after the 3 years,
they should, yes.
then it would just continue to be as if they were in that district.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
My question for not you necessarily, Josh, but to the family, you have a special needs student?
No, we have a daughter that would need, she just needs some elementary speech things, and she's not eligible for the care that Marathon does, and because we're not enrolled in Wausau, so we would have to pay out of pocket. But it's not a mandatory thing. We can work on it at home, or we can, choose to pay out of pocket. But it's just those type of services. You kind of have to beg for them if you want help from the district you're open enrolling to, if they offer them to you. So,
You have a second child, correct?
Yes.
And that child will be entering.
So he'll be in pre-K this coming school year. He'll be in 4K. So right now our daughter, who's in 1st grade, she does qualify for speech services through Marathon, or speech services via evaluation through Marathon. She just struggles with her R's. It's something that we can work on at home, and it should improve over time. But should we seek speech services, we are not eligible for them at Marathon because we open enrolled. Wausau will not provide them for us because we are not a student there. So we would have to seek that through a third party, which we would have to pay for out of pocket because insurance won't cover it because it's available through the school district.
And I do know that Marathon has a limitation on students being open enrolled
Yes.
into the district.
Yeah.
And my question is, when you have one student in the district open enrolled already, will the second child be accepted in open enrollment?
That's my goal. I did try and open enroll in this last week for this coming school year as a safety net if you guys didn't like us. I'm not gonna lie, that's what I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because for me, it's because it gives me the prompt to say this. For me, it's really hard, because if I was you, I'd be making the exact same request, because it's a very reasonable request from your standpoint, and I want to help you. On the other hand, I represent all of the Wausau taxpayers, and so by granting this, it's $500,000 of property tax base that's being given from our district to a district that I don't represent forever, for 100 years or 200 for forever, and that's assuming no students ever move into there that would attend the Wausau School District, because then you're talking about per pupil funding as well. So if we don't approve it, it isn't because we don't like you. It's because it's a hard decision.
It's okay.
It's because it's a difficult position that we get put in between wanting to help you, but also having to think about we represent all of the taxpayers in the whole district.
Sure.
Well said. Yeah, that's we've done this a couple of times. We understand this, and we do have to look at the long range as well as the short range as well. I do want to make a couple of comments. Tracy delivered the petition to alter school district boundaries January 27th, 2025, so that was all taken care of. All the paperwork and the process had gone through, just so that everybody is aware. We did all of the testimony here. I'll give one more chance for the board to have any more questions of the family. I don't believe we have. Jane, were you going to say something? No? Okay. I'll give you one more shot before we make a decision, because this will go to a motion and then to a vote. Okay.
Just hearing the district's business person, it sounds like if we enroll both of our children in Marathon after 3 years, the district Wausau loses that funding anyway. So, with that in mind, our goal is to have our children attend Marathon. So, whatever the vote is, it just makes life a little bit easier for us, despite the road we're going to go. So, I appreciate everybody's time, and thank you.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to put a motion on the floor. I'm seeking a motion to grant the transfer of the territory described in the petition, to approve it, or to deny the motion, the transfer of the territory described on the petition. With that, so we're going to say yes or no, and we will take a vote. It will be a roll vote. We're not going to go a ballot. So.
Said we were going to do a ballot one on this, and she can count them, right?
Well, we don't have to do it that way. We can just, because it's all open and it's
It has
not,
to be public.
It has to be public.
Okay.
And so there's no reason for a ballot on that. So the motion is, I'm seeking a motion to approve. Let's just say it that way. Approve the territory to be moved. Seeking a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Now, saying yes means that you're approving the territory to be changed. Saying no means that it stays as is. So with that, roll call.
Sarah Brock,
Yes.
Pat McKee,
Yes.
Jennifer Paoli, Joanna Reyes,
No.
Jane Roosh,
No.
Corey Sillers,
No.
Lance Trollope,
No.
Jim Boucher.
No.
The noes have it.
Tallying them up. Yes.
Do we need to do the reverse of that, or just having the motion declined was sufficient?
Declined is sufficient.
Decline. And the tally was
5-3.
5-3. Okay, to not move forward. As Vice President Lance said, it has nothing to do, but we're looking at the property for down the road and things of that fashion that we don't have in our control in that. So we appreciate you coming and doing what you did, because as Lance said, and I concur, I do the same thing. So thank you very much.
As someone that voted against it, I do feel your pain as a parent with 2 young kids, but I do represent the Wausau School District, so I have to make the decisions for the whole district, and I do understand that you plan to have your child there longer than 3 years, but this is in case you ever decide to sell your home and the family that comes in with kids, then if they were to have the option to enroll with us, we would keep that revenue with us. So I do apologize and I feel your pain. And it was a hard decision, but we have to vote for the Wausau School District.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Always a tough situation. All right, moving right along. Agenda item 10. Legal expenses at the Educational Operations Committee meeting. Legal expenses were talked about for the second quarter of 2024-2025. At the January Educational Operations Committee meeting, Assistant Superintendent Josh Fagut presented a summary report presenting all legal counsel expenses incurred during the second quarter of 2024-2025. Josh, do you have anything else to add?
I would just like to say that this document has been updated and is now accurate. So I just wanted to note that.
Okay. Thank you. Agenda item 11. There was no motion on that last item. Agenda item 11, new business. Approve the 2025-2026 school calendar. And that's going to be presented to us by Ms. White. And Julie. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to bring before you the school calendar for the 2025-26 school year. So just a couple of high-level things to note before we get into some of the changes in this calendar. There are 173 total student contact days. We do meet instructional minutes across the board per DPI. They set thresholds and we meet. There are enough minutes built in for 3 snow days worth. We continue to receive positive feedback on those. And they go over really well, so we keep those in. We have done work with a lot of area school districts to try to get the calendars to align as much as possible with school start dates, of course, but then breaks, just fully recognizing that a lot of our staff live in other districts. And likewise, for the other districts, we have staff who live there as well. So we want to make sure that we align as much as possible. Graduation dates are a work in progress, but I do want to note that Wausau West and East are once again moving ahead with a Saturday graduation, and that is set for May 30th. But as soon as we have waves and EEAs ready to go, we'll make sure that you get those as well. So at this time, what I'd like to do is just hand the microphone over to my colleague, Julie Schell, Director of Elementary Education, to kind of highlight some of the changes there.
Sure.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. A couple of changes we talked about with some of the presentation with the semester grading pilot that we're in. So pending that goes well and we continue that into next year, that has some implication on just some of the changes at the elementary level for sure. We are keeping our in-service days as we kind of following the pattern of in the past. So we have an in-service day, our 4 days to welcome staff back. Staff have 189 contract days, right? Yes. So we have 4 days in August. We have 1 day in September. On the 26th, you'll see these highlighted in orange. The 1 day in October, which is following the same pattern that we have had, with the following day on the 24th being a non-contract day that staff have really appreciated as part of that fall semester. We then we skip then and don't have another in-service day until January on the 19th, and that often falls on Martin Luther King Day. We then have our February 16th, President's Day is usually what that is in February. And then again, April 27th and May 22nd. So the same number of in-service days as we have had. We have found that those are balanced nicely to provide us some time to do some intermittent staff professional development. that helps us out through the year. It also has been helpful with some of our new Act 20 elements. So the only real changes that you will see, or just, I guess, nuances from the elementary piece, would be our record-keeping days for semester grading in preparation for those parent-teacher conferences would shift to November 7th in the first semester, and that time would be to prepare for parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level, which would follow in the 2 weeks before the Thanksgiving break. And then we also have one in March on the 6th. You would see traditionally that was the day before spring break, but if all goes well with our pilot and we move to that semester grading piece, those days would shift to the middle of the semester. So that record keeping day on the 6th would be preparation for parent-teacher conferences, which would follow in the next 3 weeks before spring break. The only other piece in terms of secondary, Katie Caldwell is not with us here tonight, but where the end of the semester falls for both for district-wide K-12 schooling is on the 23rd. We do have a record-keeping day on the 19th, but the placement of that, or an in-service day, I should say, on the 19th. The placement of the 23rd is to balance out the number of days in each of the semesters so that there is an equal opportunity for instructional minutes and days and times before that finals week in both of the high schools. So that will be a little bit of a shift, and that happens to fall at the end of our finals week with that in-service day, where many of our secondary teachers are also doing some record keeping and utilizing that time for report cards. Doing a little bit of a shift there and a little bit of an adjustment to make that happen so that our semesters could be more balanced. Anything else in terms of, am I missing anything in terms of the instructional pieces? I don't think so.
One thing I would just add is we still do maintain the afternoon conferences because data has shown that those are utilized very well. So, and at the board's direction, those are maintained in this calendar as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was remiss in saying, that those conferences would happen paired with so that parents would just have a full day off versus half days, which are more difficult for parents, especially with childcare. So that afternoon conferences for the elementary shifted to that November 7th day, paired up with record keeping and preparation for conferences.
Great, and I think that covers it. And at this time, if you have any questions, gladly take those.
Questions from the board?
I've got, a couple comments. One question, just my annual comment to any lawmakers that happen to be watching to please let us start before September if we want to. It's local control. Let us do it what we want, so you support local control. It would still be a 3 or even a 4-day holiday weekend, so your tourism won't be hurt. I promise it won't hurt your tourism. Second thing is, it was great to see that we were able to work out a full 2 weeks for winter break this year. I know that coming back for 1 or 2 days isn't popular, and I don't think it accomplishes a great deal of learning. So I think it was great to have that happen. One question I have is the March we traditionally would have that record-keeping half-day the day before spring break. I'm assuming that had to get moved up because of there aren't really actual report cards there. It's going to be more of a preparing for, so that probably wasn't avoidable. It's just the day before spring break works out good because traditionally that's not a, how do I say this politely, it's not a heavy learning day.
Be careful.
Well, the celebration days are good as well, and the have fun days are good as well in elementary school, but that isn't a heavy day of instruction the day before a vacation. So it is a good day to have a half day if we're going to have one, but I understand if it just didn't work, it doesn't work.
I think the one challenge has always been that elementary is a half day, but secondary has always had a full day on that day. So that does bring challenges to our community in that it's always been off that elementary is always a half day and secondary is a full day the day before spring break. So we simply shifted that up so that we had a meaningful use of that record keeping day and getting us prepared to do those third quarter parent teacher conferences at the elementary level.
Yeah, and those movie days and class celebrations are fun too, but that's what will happen on that day. It won't be grinding away at academics.
Be careful.
Well, if anybody doesn't believe me, they can prove me wrong. I'm pretty confident in it.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Lance said. If the officials, our representatives and all would change their mind about start date, it would help, considering the fact that we play within a very confined 189 days, and it's confined. And you have to have those 189 activity or contact days taken care of. And I think about that with the AP students, the IB students, our students that need special needs. They need to be contacted with. But if that starting date would be moved, we could also have the semester ending by Christmas and then the second semester starting when they come back from Christmas on a 2-week break. And if you had a 2-week break, we could do that every day or every year. And it's unfortunate that we can't, because that would be the flexibility that we would have with creating our schedule. And I think it would, parochial schools in the state of Wisconsin do that. They start early, activities start early, that's all happening. Why not start the classroom earlier?
Even the ones that get taxpayer public funding get to do that. In case you didn't know, I thought I'd throw it out.
I'm piggybacking and helping you right now. Listen, you're going to listen. You can't go. You're acting like a lawyer here. You're going both sides there.
Even if they get public money, they get to start early.
Anyway, having a little fun with it. It would be nice if we could do those types of things. Ladies, I appreciate what you're doing and trying to create this schedule. It's a very difficult thing to do. I've done it for many years, and thank you for what you've done. So with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve the calendar for 2025-2026 for next year.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Agenda item 11B. The board will be presented with a suggested elementary boundary change for the start of the 2025 school year. I turn it over to Mr. Vagut again. Okay. Thank you, Josh, for popping up and down.
So this should be pretty quick, but we did come up with boundaries for the elementary schools. As a reminder, the first couple of maps are one-to-one. So all of Grant, for example, is going into Thomas Jefferson, but that would be the new boundary for that school. Any questions on these first couple? Cassie, if you don't mind clicking down to the next one. So that attendance area is all of Lincoln into G.D. Jones, if you want to move down. This one would be all of Hewitt, Texas into Riverview. And once these are approved, of course, the schools will be taken off the map and just the receiving school will be there. And then, so Franklin and John Marshall are a little different. That's where Hawthorne Hills was, we had to come up with somewhere on which students to send to Franklin and which students to send to John Marshall. So the line there, it's a little hard to see, but I think it's Forest Street for the most part. And then west of, yeah, there are hardly any students there. So for the most part, it's Forest Street is the division. This comes up with closer to a 50-50 split, but it's a better fit at both schools. So.
Any questions for Josh?
I have a question on the border going along Forest Street.
Yep.
That I can see, but then it goes off as a diagonal. Is that a street that goes through there?
I don't believe that is a street. And we could, Cassie, do you want to move up to the next one if you don't mind? Yeah, right there. I would imagine that we could have it follow Forest Street basically to where it connects to the river, and because I don't think there's any students living in that zone.
That's the street that the courthouse is on. Yeah, they drew the line that way because I believe there's one apartment building that's in that space. And so it was cleaner to do it that way. So that's why the line is there. If we shift it, they would have to just redo that and change it.
But I'm not, and I'm not saying that it would have to be 4th Street the whole way, but I'm just imagining someday in the future, if this diagonal line is going down and whatever the smaller street is there south of 4th Street, and it's just cutting half diagonally across it, and you might have next door neighbors, one is on one side and one's on the other, right on the exact same street, the bus turns around, or I don't know if that, I'm trying to...
Those are businesses there. That's going right through what used to be Firestone, McDonald's, down the road. So I don't believe there's...
I don't believe there is either, but if the board has a desire for us to redraw it, we certainly can.
Yeah, the rentals that are there are behind McDonald's, so they'd be on the John Marshall side of the line.
The houses that are there are on the street that's bisected.
Right.
I remember looking at boundaries years ago and sitting as a board and sort of, picking on whatever prior board came up with such a nonsensical line, which probably made sense at the time that it happened because it didn't impact anybody. That's my only thought is maybe it doesn't impact anybody now, but if we're going to create a boundary that's going to be there, does it make more sense to run along one of those streets and still accomplish the exact same thing, rather than having it just cut right through diagonally on whatever that street is south of Forest Street?
I say we name it the Trollop Divide.
There you go. I could get behind you, maybe.
I was just going to say, be careful now again, what earlier boards.
Yeah, well, but I'm serious. We sat and we just couldn't. Why would it be there? And now that I see this, it probably was a discussion much like this. At that time, it probably was like, well, nobody lives there anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. Or that was just a business. But then over 20 years later, the business got torn down and houses got put up, and now they're like, why is this going right through the diagonal? So if we're going to do it, if it's going to accomplish the same thing, I just wonder if it would make more sense to use those streets as a boundary. And then after the streets, it doesn't really matter how the diagonal goes, I guess, if there aren't any roads back there.
I think it's something we could certainly do.
Would it prevent us from approving this now?
We are.
I guess I'm confident that future boards will be able to figure that issue out.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think this is a huge deal.
I don't think we need to hold up our...
Well, we wouldn't have to. We could approve it with that change.
Could, with an amendment to it.
Right.
Yeah, we should be okay.
There's no students
There's no students
impacted,
right now.
right?
So that will work. It's the students up here that they were trying to capture.
Somebody want to propose an amendment to this,
So if-
future, you can take care of this?
Okay, or Tabitha just confirmed that if we follow Forest Street up to the river, there are no impacted students. So we could do it that way, and then it would be clean for boards that are sitting here in 20 years.
Well, so there's no students between Forest Street and that red division line
Right.
there.
Correct. So if you ran it across Forest Street up First and down the bridge there, it would be okay because it's not impacting any current students. The current students are up in this area towards the square.
And we don't think anything's going to be built in that area as well.
I don't believe so, and they...
complex going up over by Papa John's? Where is that?
That's on the other side of the river.
On the other side.
It's the apartments that's gonna be across from the Imagine area.
We can leave it as is and
they would be
move
in here.
and just go forward, or you can add an addendum to this and vote on that addendum and move forward. What's that?
I agree with Van Mellen, street.
Just follow Forest Street over the river.
Okay, let's just make I'm seeking an amendment to follow the streets.
Yeah, there isn't even a motion yet, so they have to amend it, right? We can just.
Well, you're going to eventually, if you're going to do that, you should.
So
We'll put the motion on the table and then we'll amend it and then we'll move forward on that. That's how it properly should be going forward. So let me do this. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the elementary boundary changes beginning in 2025-2026 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And then before we vote, I'll make an amendment.
We'll make an amendment right now.
I'd like to amend that motion to have the boundary division follow Forest Street as discussed.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay. No more discussions? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries. That motion carries with that amendment. Now we'll go to the voting on the motion. It's already on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Yep. All right. Agenda item 11C. Schools and governmental agencies. And administration will review policy 5540. The schools and governmental agencies, they will also review protocols and practices currently used with governmental agencies. This is a review. No action is requested. So I'll turn it over to you and you can introduce everybody.
I'm welcoming Nathan Pauls, who's with the PD, is here to present with us as well. Wendy Cartledge and John Union will be giving the presentation.
Welcome, Nathan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Thank you for this time this evening. Our goal is to review policy 5540, schools and governmental agencies, in light of the executive orders that came through a few weeks ago. So where are we at now? Every student who comes through our doors, no matter their situation, has a right to a free education under the law. Wausau School District Policy 5540, Schools and Governmental Agencies, allows our district to provide a safe space for every child and also remain in alignment with local, state, and federal law. The Wausau School District has existing policies and procedures in place to address any unknown visitor. There have been rumors that ICE agents were at our buildings. Those are not true. Those are false.
So with that, we thought it would be important to let you know what we have done and what we've been doing to get us up to that point. And as you can see here, we started out, communicated to our building administrators as information became known. We included our pupil services staff because they were on the front lines and dealing with feeling that initial flood of questions from staff as well as students and families, and made them aware and reminded them of policy 5540 in there. So they were really armed with our policies and procedures at the building level. And then as time continued on, we did communicate that same information and the information that's linked in this presentation from DPI to all staff members so that everybody was best empowered to answer any questions and support any students. And that's where we're at now, that message of make sure you're supporting each other, you're handling questions, and you're really focused on supporting our students and their needs in moving their learning forward.
So this is a link that references the January 24th support and resources that the DPI rolled out publicly available to everyone. So that was a piece of the information we used to inform us moving forward.
So then the one thing I would add that we had done, we had reached out to the police department several times in there to stay in contact with them, speak with them, and they've been super helpful with that, and it's just been a great joint partnership to make sure that we were sharing information back and forth and on the same page. So that was something that was in the works there too. So what we're going to continue to do is just, as always, focus on safe and secure learning environments for all of our students, make sure our staff continue to be empowered with the most up-to-date information, and that we're able to share things with families, and that any ideas or any thoughts of misinformation that's out there is addressed as soon as we can to help people feel safe and secure. We're going to continue to implement our policies and procedures, again, to make sure that students are safe. And we'll stay in contact with the Wausau Police Department, as we have been, to make sure that this path continues forward and we're in the best position to support our staff and students and families.
So what to know? So we would never disclose student information without the written consent of a parent or guardian, and that's outlined in the statute posted above. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but this has always been true within our public schools. And then again, referring back to policy 5540. So administrators shall determine whether it's appropriate to provide access to the student based on the officer's purpose, whether the officer has stated there's an emergency, etc. So this outlines the pieces of our policy that we would lean on when we have unknown visitors requesting access to our students. So what if? So what if an ICE agent comes to one of our buildings? We're going to follow the same process that we would with any unknown person requesting access to one of our buildings. If that person is representing as an ICE agent, the building administrator will be contacted. They're going to wait with that person until a district level administrator and an SRO are available to help support and also help determine whether or not the documents that we're looking at are valid. The district may also seek legal counsel if we'd like further clarification. Again, our top priority is to provide a safe environment for all of our students, and we want to do that in a manner that complies with local, state, and federal law. Are there any questions?
Questions from the board? I'd just like to make one comment. I think we're very much in tune with what the state superintendent, Underly, came out and said. We're here to educate and to protect our students when they're in the building, and our SROs will be doing the same thing, and everything should be followed with protocol. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Agenda item 11D. Board will review the proposed updates to the attached policies that was put forward earlier. Turn it over to you.
And just for clarity, we've removed all of we had talked about the healthcare policies. We removed all those. We'll be continuing to analyze those. So these are all policies that you guys have seen and talked about. There wasn't any concerns with the ones that are presented.
There were some questions. Are there any other follow-up questions? Alrighty. I'm seeking a motion to approve the proposed changes to the attached policies as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda item 11.2. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, Mr. Fagut shared many of the key variables contributing to the district's multi-year financial projection model. The model represents a baseline using current information to which adjustments are subsequently made. The projection model uses budget numbers from the 2024-2025 district budget with percentages and/or dollar amounts cast forward, along with adjustments to create this baseline. Once these assumptions are built into the projection model, it will be presented to the board at a later date. Any continued follow-up or anything like that, Josh?
Just that we are incorporating the board's feedback regarding health insurance in our future models.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. 11D. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, Ms. Schell, Director of Elementary Education, shared information around the exploration of moving from quarterly to semester grading at the elementary level. Any follow-up? No? Okay, and that was for information for us. Consolidation update. The Education Operations Committee meeting, Mr. Williams gave a brief update on the planning of the consolidation. Any additional items?
There are.
Oh. Welcome. Welcome.
So we are hoping that we can make this a rather regular occasion with the board to continue to provide updates as we go forward with this project. So just taking a few minutes to give you some additional things since the last time I presented at the meeting. Thank you for helping us. We put up there that the boundary is pending approval. We didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we appreciate the support that you provided and giving us to go forward. That's really the foundation for everything else that will follow, is those boundaries. We've made the principal assignments for the new receiving schools and how we're placing those principals. We've updated the website to include the FAQs. And again, these are questions that we gathered when we were out after the board approved the consolidation movement from the task force. And we gathered them all up. We sat together as a group and we answered them as a group so that we could present it for everyone. So they have an opportunity to go to the website and find those answers. We also thought it was imperative at that time to provide a way for people to ask additional questions after seeing the answers. So we do have that there as well. We continue to actively communicate with staff and families. We've also initiated with our library vendor for the collection logistics, knowing that the library is being one of the largest parts of any school with a lot of pieces to it, that we are seeking help to do that. The Follett has done this many times, and we're looking to take from their expertise to see how we can make the move easier and more efficient. And then we've also entered with conversations with another school district, the Oshkosh School District, as they have gone through a similar consolidation, just to see if we could learn anything from what they have gone through, and they can give us some insight on what we might be able to make sure that we watch out for. And the main thing that they provided us with that was really looking into the culture of the schools that were merging, and that we would do that ahead of time instead of waiting until that actually happens in the school year, so that any questions of procedural could be answered ahead of time. So for the next time, for the next board meeting, what we'll have is communication, so there's principal assignments to the staffs and families. We plan on that being tomorrow, actually. And again, a representative from Longfellow will be at all the impacted schools to give that information out and be able to be there to answer any questions. We will also communicate the assignments for the impacted grade level teachers tomorrow as well. We thought it was imperative to try to really start moving on these things. So we're starting with those grade level teachers. Now that the principals have their assignments, we're going to work with them to finalize the building maps. We didn't want to do that prior to having them on board, knowing where they were going to be at, so they can provide input on how the school should be rearranged with the relocations. We're also reviewing software systems. To give you an idea, Gaggle, which is a system that we use to protect students and make sure that we know if there's any potential cause to really do like a well check. That's based on buildings. And so with having the reduction of buildings, we wanted to make sure that we changed the structure that is in the application so that it would reflect the new locations and that the students would be in the appropriate buildings so that the right people get notified. We're also starting to confirming a district assets inventory so that we understand what type of things do we have in these buildings, furniture and curriculum and technology, so that we can understand how we might be able to use those in the new receiving areas or anywhere else in the district, so we can streamline that process as well and become efficient when we need to make the move. we are also now including the impacted principals of the receiving schools in our planning meetings as the district, and they become a strategic partner of ours moving forward, because we think one of the most important things that we need to consider is the culture, not only from a staff perspective, but a student perspective. And the sooner we can get that started, the easier it'll become. And for next year, it should be a rollout, and hopefully, those issues can be resolved, and the culture can improve and move forward as we go through the school year. Go ahead. So that leaves us what's left on the horizon. As we look down the road a little bit further, we know that we want to have continuing communication of our assignments for other impacted staff. We're going to communicate the boundaries changes that you've just approved tonight to the families so they can know where their children will be. And we can start that process and kind of hopefully take a little of the mystery out of things right now that answer some of those questions. We're going to continue to work on finding a new home for Ray Granite. We'll start moving forward those moving details. We're going to have those collaborations with the merging schools and building transportation plans. And one of the most important things that we wanted to make sure on is honoring the closing schools at the end of the school year, so that we look at not only for the families and staff, but any alumni that may have been there, that they're considered as well, and have an open house so they can reminisce about the school that's going to be closing. And with that, I open to questions.
Any questions from the board?
I don't have a question. I just want to say you guys are doing awesome. I'm so impressed. I know how much work is going into this, and just really good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's very appropriate. Hearing what we're doing as a board and administration, and what you're doing to make sure that we're aware of everything step by step. This also gives the community an opportunity to see everything step by step as well as it's taken place. So again, I will echo that, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 11.5. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, after discussion, the committee approved to recommend to the full board the approval for administration to move forward with early stages of selling the vacant buildings. Administration has the choice to use a realtor or at its discretion. At this point in time, we gave a thumbs up at that time. This is a motion, so I'm going to put it in front of the board and we'll respond to that. I'm seeking a motion for approval to the administration to move forward with the early stages of selling the vacant buildings. The use of a realtor will be left at the discretion of administration.
So moved.
You got a so moved? You got a second? All right. Any questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda item 12, moving right along here. Are there any board members who would like to share any professional growth and development for the month?
I just wanted to share something I learned at the state convention about full day 4K. Baraboo has started it recently, and they found that it not only brought some families back into the district, but they felt that it kept families from leaving to go to places that had the full day 4K, and they thought the increase of the 0.4 that they had to pay for, the increase from half day to full day, was well worth the long-term investment. And I just thought that was something that maybe we should be considering.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to add to that. Wisconsin Association of School Board Convention in Milwaukee was a success with many presenters, speakers, and vendors participating, and that one was a very key one. I had heard parts of that in the past, Jane, and I think it's very appropriate to be looking at things over after a period of time. We had 3 board members with several administrators attending this year as well. It is always an education attending the convention, and it's worthwhile. So I would encourage anyone that did not make it or has not made it in the past, if you can swing it, and that's difficult because you have real jobs as well. Not that you're faking a job or anything like that, but you have jobs that that prevent you from doing those types of things, and I greatly appreciate that. But the convention is definitely worth the time to go down and mingle with others, to pick up tidbits, as we just heard. Those types of things help us become a better district because we're open to listening, and thank you. With that, Mr. Sillers, legislative liaison. Have anything?
Just that you and I are signed up for March 12th to do the WASB Advocacy Day in Madison. And about a week and a half ago now it's been, had the opportunity to speak with Senator Staffsholt from St. Croix Valley area, and shared with President Boucher and Kale and a couple other of the staff about tech ed grant money that is written into the state budget from last cycle to help out tech schools with trades training, and see how we can possibly expand that program into helping out high school level students as well for areas of the state that don't have a tech ed program available in their communities. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be able to follow up with the senator on the 12th, if nothing else, when we're down there.
Good. Wisconsin Association of School Boards sets this up every year. It's a day at the Capitol to be able to get board members an opportunity to talk with representatives throughout the day and through presentations. Jane?
I just wanted to add that the Education Committee met, and one of the bills that they are proposing, several which are kind of disturbing, but AB 6 would require that school boards in Wisconsin spend a minimum of 70% of operating money on direct classroom expenditures, and would limit annual compensation increases for school administrators. I don't know why those are grouped together, but you don't find out if you spent the 70% until well into the next year, and then they're going to dock your funds. This is eating into local control again, and it needs to be shut down. So when you go to Madison next, you can talk to them about that.
Have a list, and we'll add that to the list as we go down. Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Bushman.
Just two quick comments. First, I'd like to recognize both Ralph and the rest of the administrative team. They've been doing a fantastic job in planning for consolidation. And the intricate, and you guys mentioned that, we appreciate that. The intricacies that are involved with that are amazing. And one of the things we're really falling back on is face-to-face communication with folks. So going into the buildings, making sure we're talking with the buildings. But the dominoes and the sequence of events that have to occur to make that happen and to do it well is important. So I just want to recognize the team for doing that. The second one is we are in the planning for our community conversation, an invitation to the community to talk about the future of the district. That's going to be March 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's a evening, morning. And so we'd send an invitation to anybody who's listening and is interested in it. We have on our website, you can access it, and we ask that you RSVP, so we have a number of people that are going to be attending, but really a method for us to hear the community and talk with the community about where we're going as a district. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. 6th, 7th, and 8th of March. I would like to reference the written board member liaison district activity report and ask that report be entered into the official record. And along with that, I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.